Alright, all we're going to do in this lesson is combine two things that you already know. You already know that if this was plain old x, you would subtract 7 from each side. So you have the square root of x is equal to 9. And if I needed to get rid of a square, I would take the square root. So if I have the square root, that just means I want to square it. Because those are inverses. So x equals 9 squared is 81. Okay, plug it in. Square root of 81 is 9. 9 plus 7 is 16, so it works. Okay, and that's pretty much the basis. We just have a couple things we got to watch out for. So let's try it again. So plus 5 plus 5. Square root of x is equal to 3. And if I want to get rid of the square root, we're going to square both sides. So x is equal to 9 this time. Okay, plug it in. Square root of 9 is 3. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So that's okie dokie. So just combining the fact that you know how to solve these using plus 5 and how to get rid of squares and square roots. So what can we move this up to? Time in seconds it takes for a pendulum of a clock to complete a full swing. Okay, so it's swinging back and forth. Time is equal to 2 times the square root of the length of the pendulum divided by 3.3, where L is the length of the pendulum in feet, and the pendulum of the clock completes a full swing in 3 seconds. So 3 seconds is what I know. That is a time. So 3 is equal to 2 times the length divided by 3.3, taking the square root of all this. So just a couple things in solving. If this was 2x, you would divide by 2 because it's multiplied by all of it. So we're going to take 3 halves. We have the square root of L minus 3.3. Notice all of this stuff, L divided by 3.3, is inside of the square root. So the next thing I have to do is square it. So all we really have to do is be careful of the order. So 1.5 squared is 2.25. So that is equal to the length divided by 3.3. So if the length is divided by 3.3, we're going to multiply by 3.3. So times 3.3. So the order in which we have to do things is the only thing that really differs here. So times 3.3. So 7.425 feet in length. Okay, so that is the length of the pendulum in the grandfather clock here. Alright, what is the solution? So next item we run into, notice I have a square root of all of this and a square root of all of this. So all I want to do is square both sides, and the square and the square root cancel each other out. So I get 7x minus 4 equals 5x plus 10. We're going to add 4 and add 4. So I have 7x equals 5x plus 14. If you want to go the other way, you can. It doesn't matter. Minus 5x minus 5x. If you want to do all this in one step, you can. 2x equals 14, and divide by 2, divide by 2. X equals 7. So after we realize what to do, this is the only thing new. If you have the radical on both, just go ahead and square both. So what you'll see in problem number 2 here is we're going to go straight to squaring and squaring. 5t minus 11 equals t plus 5. So maybe I want to subtract t and add 11. So I have 16 equals, if I subtract t, that's 4t. Divide by 4, divide by 4. T equals 4 is what we're after. So again, if you have radicals on both sides, just square it, you'll get variables on both sides. Extraneous solutions. Extraneous solutions. So this is, remember earlier in the year we'd ask you to plug it back in and check just to make sure you did it right. Here we have to plug it back in and check to make sure it's actually an answer. So first thing is I have a radical all by itself, so I want to square it. So now I have n squared equals n plus 12. Let's get everything on one side. I want to keep this positive. So n squared minus n, because we're going to subtract the n and subtract 12, minus 12 equals 0. So now we want to see if we can factor it out. So factors of 12 that subtract to give me 1. Well, that's 4 and 3. And we want minus 4 and plus 3. So solutions, n equals positive 4 and negative 3. And now we just want to plug those in. So can I take the square root of something and I say that it ends up being negative? And that's what we're checking. Okay, so if I take negative 3 plus 12 is 9. The square root of 9 is 3, not negative 3. So 4 is the only one that works here. Okay, so it always has to go back to that original problem. So again, we're going to square and square. Keep in mind I did all of this squared, so now I have y squared, because negative 1 squared is 1, and y squared is y squared. This would be y plus 6, so I'm going to subtract it over minus y minus 6 equals 0. So we're in the same situation. So this is y squared equals y minus 6. So get everything on one side. Let's work out some factors here. Factors of 6 that subtract to give me 1. Y minus 3, y plus 2 equals 0. So y equals 3 and negative 2. Now when I plug this in my original here, so if I clear some of this ink out of the way, the original problem, I'm taking the square root and I'm supposed to get negative over here. So that means if I have a negative times a negative, that's what I wanted. But if I have a negative times a positive, this stays negative. So we just want to plug them in. So 3 plus 6, the square root of 6, 3 plus 6 is 9, the square root of 9 is 3, and is 3 equal to negative 3? And it's not. If I plug in negative 2, negative 2 plus 6 is 4, the square root of 4 is 2. If I plug in 2 times negative 2 is 4, so negative 2 is the only correct solution here. So it has to go in and work for the original problem, otherwise then it's an extraneous solution. Alright, we'll try and get a couple extra wrinkles here. You notice we have 3y in here, so we have some work to do afterwards. So minus 8 minus 8. Square root of 3y equals negative 6. Wait a minute. Wait just a minute. The square root of what number is going to give me negative over here? You got that right. Nothing. This can't happen. No solution. Right, so if you get the square root alone, the radical alone, and it's equal to a negative, you stop right there. No solution. Okay, so right now we're minus 6 minus 6. Notice the radical is not alone, so negative square root of 2x equals 4. Seems okay. I have to treat this like it's negative 1. Divide by negative, divide by negative. The square root of 2x is equal to negative 4. Again, same situation, no solution. Okay, I cannot take the square root of number and get negative. Okay, so what we're doing is we're using the idea of getting this x alone and then moving back. Instead of just saying 5x, we're saying 5 root x. So it'd be minus 7 minus 7. 5 root x is equal to 15. Divide by 5, divide by 5. Root x is equal to 3. And then we want to square it. So using the idea, all the things that you could do before, we're just adding that extra step. To get rid of the square root, we're going to square it. And that's the whole thing. Alright, bring your questions, write them down right into your notes so you have them, you don't have to think about it. And I will see you with questions.